just want to let you know that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Terry. I'm from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and I'm excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for being here.
I'm Joff Baker. I live in Half Moon Bay, California, and I'm a member of Elders for Sound Democracy.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Joff.
I'm
Hi,
Emily. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Emily. I'm from Santa Clara, California.
Nice.
And I'm Ken from Hingham, Massachusetts, just south of Boston. I'm on the EC Elders Climate Action Communications team.
Nice.
I'm glad to be here today.
Great.
I'm Mary in Redwood City, California. I've written postcards for registering people and getting out the vote. And so I'm interested in finding out what's different about this one with a nonpartisan bent, but an issue orientation. Glad to be here.
Great.
My name's Jean. I live on Vashon Island, which is near Seattle, but I'm originally an East Coast person. And I also have done a zillion postcard writing, and including Reclaim Our Vote, which is nonpartisan. So I'm also interested to see what's different about this. Thank you.
I'm Jamie from Alexandria, Virginia, and I've never done postcard writing before, but I'm wanting to make sure that as many people vote as possible in this upcoming election.
Great. And if you're just joining us, we're giving some time for people to arrive. Just sharing where you're from and a bit about yourself if you like.
Hi, I'm Christine Zende. I live in Lexington, Massachusetts. I'm a member of 350 Mass and Third Act, and very excited about writing some postcards. Thank you.
Excellent. One thing we won't talk much about today, but there is some hope to do a future postcarding session later in the summer. This is the only one we are for sure doing, so it's great that you're all here. But with any luck, we'll have another round of this later. And some of that will depend on how things go for this one. We've gotten some great grant funding, which has helped this happen. I know for some folks, this is still kind of an early session, so I'm going to stall a little bit more because we're got about a third of the people here that we're expecting. Yeah, I've done Reclaim Our Vote too. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, since you're not wasting, but using up time, I also wanted to mention that I am a founding member of my church's Laudato Si group.
Nice.
I hope there are some Catholics on this Zoom or other people who have read Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si, or the sequel to that, Laudate Deum, and I find it very encouraging and hopeful to merge my issues about climate and my faith. And so I want to encourage anybody else who is interested in that to pursue it and to talk to other people about it. And it's not absolutely necessary because we need to save the planet no matter what, but I found it very life-giving. That's it.
Yeah, I have a small nonprofit called Climate Change Recovery, and we do free trainings for youth and adults on the climate crisis. And have done a lot of interfaith work, which includes folks who don't have any connection to a faith group. But it's been a really interesting experience. We've gotten in a place that is predominantly European American. We've been able to reach many people of color, folks who are Muslim, Jewish, Christian, and variations on that, Catholic, Quaker, Native American, and more. It's been really, really kind of fun and rewarding. And I think I'll share one story from that. We'll let a few people come in, and then whoever isn't here, when we start, we'll let them kind of catch up by watching the video afterwards, so we don't keep you waiting for too long. But I think you'll like the story. So as some of you might know, I am the only dual federal climate plaintiff mom. So if you've heard about the Juliana et al. Versus US case, that's the federal climate youth lawsuit Some of you might have heard about Montana's success, which was based on our attempt to get to trial, an attempt which is taking us twice as long as Brown versus Board took from start to finish. But my daughter and my son are both plaintiffs, thus the dual plaintiff mom. And my daughter was asked to speak at an event centered on the Pope's encyclical for a Catholic church, and it was the community as a whole, but a lot of Catholics, and it was an interfaith panel. So, but we didn't manage to respond in time, and so she didn't end up being on the panel. And the adults who were there, who were all on the older side, made lots of really good points. But the questions they kept getting were, well, I don't know, because if I do this and I don't have time for this, and I really need to be more vegetarian, and I really need to like stop using plastic straws. And there was a lot of like, I don't mean this at all in an insensitive way, but a lot of hand wringing. And I could see my daughter who was probably about 16 at that time, was just kind of like driving her nuts. And I nudged her. I was like, go ahead and speak. It's okay. Go ahead and just raise your hand. You're on the panel, but just raise your hand and say that you have something to say. And so she did. And she said, there's so many different things that you can possibly do to help the climate crisis. Just pick something that you want to do and do it. And the whole room was just like, oh, okay. And I think that's exactly why we're here today. So again, I want to welcome you all and thank you so much for coming. I'll say just a teensy bit more about myself later, but I want to give you a quick overview of how the training is going to go today. We're going to watch a video prepared by Shannon Seigal from Environmental Voter Project. This training is part of Elders Promote the Vote, which is a project of Elders Climate Action and also our nonprofit Elders Action Network, and the group, which is also a project of that, Elders for Sound Democracy. So we'll watch the video and then I'll talk for just another minute or so, and then we'll have a commitment form that you can fill out, and I'll say a little bit more about that before I share it with you. If you want to go ahead and do the postcarding, but the video is really important to watch. You're welcome to have your camera on, off as you like. We'll also get a group picture at some point toward the end. But it's really key because it's going to tell you pretty much everything you need to know. I'll do my best to answer any questions afterwards, but it'll be good. So bear with me for a minute. Set this up. Yeah, Shannon does an amazing job of laying it all out.
There's no sound.
You're muted as well. I think when you share your screen, you also have to say share sound, share audio.
Okay, yeah, thank you for catching that. And I was saying, I was just putting in the chat, let me know if there's any issues. That's gonna be the best way to communicate during the video because it's about a half an hour long. If you're just joining us, we did a really quick introduction and we're going to go ahead and play the video. I'm going to restart it in a minute. Let's see, I may not be able to do full screen. We'll see. Let's try this approach. Okay, we're still having issues, it looks like. Give me just a second.
Before you share, there should be two boxes on the right side that say share sound. And you click on share.
Checking for that. That's so weird. No, I had this one. I am not seeing what you're saying. Is it under share or more?
No, after you click on share and you're looking
okay.
at what you're going to share, then there should
Okay.
be two boxes.
Oh, bingo. Excellent. Okay, I think I had it clicked wrong, so I didn't see it. Okay, share sound. Video. Okay. If you can just come off mute if there's any other issues. Otherwise, we'll hope this will be good.
Welcome and thank you so much for your interest in participating in an environmental voter project postcard campaign. My name is Shannon Seigal. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the organizing director here at the Environmental Voter Project. I am working with the group leaders from your team to help you all participate in the Arizona July 30th, 2024 statewide primary postcarding campaign through EVP. So your contact for this process is going to be the leader from your organization who's communicating with us about these postcards. So this is a training to help make sure that you know the commitments that you'll be making and how to complete the postcards through the Environmental Voter Project and our partner organization that you're a part of. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background on the Environmental Voter Project and why we exist, just so that you know a little bit more background on this group that you'll be working with. So the reason why the Environmental Voter Project exists is because most actual voters or likely voters do not prioritize climate and environmental issues. So what you're looking at here is a poll of likely voters for the 2022 midterm. These were voters in battleground states specifically. And these voters were asked what their #1 priority was when they were deciding who to vote for. And when these likely voters were polled, only 4% of them said that climate or the environment was their #1 priority. And it's really easy to see how even visually, climate and environment is getting buried under all these other top issues when we're talking to likely voters. So that's a problem. So if you're running a campaign, and I know many of you may have participated in campaigns in your activism and volunteer lives. So when you're running a campaign, you have limited time and limited money. So you have to focus that time and money on folks who are considered likely to vote in that particular election. That's because you don't want to spend your time convincing somebody to vote for you, getting them on board just for that person not to turn out anyway. So it's important to remember that who you vote for is always secret, but whether or not you vote is a matter of public record. So campaigns are using that public voting record when deciding who they're going to speak with, who they're going to poll, when deciding what's my platform going to be, what are the issues that I should be prioritizing when I'm in office. So if we're only polling likely voters, that's bad news for the environment because it's easy to see that actual people who show up and vote, likely voters, aren't prioritizing climate as their #1 issue. Interestingly, though, these trends are not exactly the same when we were looking at unlikely voters. So we know there's plenty of data that shows that the majority of Americans care about climate change. The majority of Americans want to see climate and environmental action and leadership. So there's a gap. There's a gap of folks who care a lot about climate, but are just considered unlikely to vote in an upcoming election. And those are the folks that we're targeting here at EVP and who you'll be targeting with your postcards. So we are an entirely nonpartisan organization. So by participating in this program with the Environmental Voter Project, you are agreeing to only use our designated nonpartisan messaging for these postcards or anything else you might do with us. So we don't try to elect particular candidates or push for certain policies or parties. Instead, we're just focusing on data-driven ways to get people who already prioritize climate and the environment to become consistent voters. So, interestingly, for low propensity voters like we're speaking with at EVP, using partisan messaging is actually just not effective at getting those folks out to vote. So even if it might not feel intuitive, if we want these environmentalists to be voting and to be saying that climate is their #1 priority when they do vote or when they're polled, we just have to get them to vote. Like, we know they care about climate. We can target these folks. We just have to help them vote. So it's important that you agree to this process when you participate with the Environmental Voter Project. So how we do that is we use data analytics to identify people who already care about climate, those folks I was talking about, but who have poor voting records, who don't vote consistently. And then we use the best behavioral science techniques, and I'll share some of those studies with you, to help them become consistent voters, to get them across that finish line into the ballot booth, right? We're not convincing them to care more about climate. We don't have to talk to them about climate. We know they're already climate first voters. We just have to help them vote. How do we do that? So we use a process called predictive analytics. So first we work with data scientists to survey large samples of voters in every single state where we do voter contact. So this training we'll be talking about Arizona, but we are in 19 states across the country, and we've employed the same process in each of those 19 states. So we survey large samples of registered voters in each of these states, and we ask them really simple issue priority survey questions like you saw on that first slide. So then we look at all the people who said that either climate change or clean air, clean water, and the environment was their #1 most important issue when they vote. So not just casual environmentalists, these are folks that they see that big list of issues, they're picking climate, they're picking environment as their #1 issue. So now we have a whole big group of people who are already registered to vote who self-identified as having climate or the environment as their #1 priority. We look at those people and we see there's thousands of consumer and behavioral data points associated with each person in the voter file. So these are the same types of data points that are used, for example, when you get a targeted advertisement online or when you get an insurance quote from an insurance company. It might include, like, if you are a homeowner, like, do you live in an urban area or rural area or a suburban zip code? Are you registered as driving a particular kind of car? Are there children in your household? Are you a member of any professional organizations? All sorts of things. Do you subscribe to certain magazines? This is public consumer and behavioral data. So we don't say, because you're a subscriber of National Geographic or because you drive a Tesla, you must be an environmentalist. Instead, we're looking at all the people who self-identified as climate or environment first, and we're seeing what things those folks have in common. So we're not deciding what makes them environmentalists, we're looking at what the environmentalists have in common. And that helps us identify patterns and correlations amongst all these people, which can then allow us to build a statistical model that can then predict out for other people on the voter file, but who didn't answer our survey, how likely they are to fit our model. So that means each voter on the voter file gets a 0 to 100 score based on how likely they are to list climate or the environment as a top priority, just like those voters from step 1. So now we have a list of registered voters in a particular state who list climate and the environment as a #1 priority, or who are highly likely to list climate or the environment as their #1 priority. And the third piece is we remove everyone who's already a good voter. So we take out all the people with great voting records because they're already doing what we want them to do. I don't have to have you spend your time writing a postcard to somebody who's already going to vote and they're already going to vote climate. Instead, we only focus on the people who are considered low propensity voters. So for this particular election, we're talking about folks who are considered unlikely to vote in the presidential election this year based on their previous voting record. And those are the folks we contact. So they're already registered to vote. They're highly likely to say that climate or the environment is their #1 voting priority, but they're unlikely to vote in the presidential election unless they have a voter intervention like a postcard or a phone call or a door-to-door canvass. So this is where postcarding comes in. So postcarding is just one of a number of ways that volunteers help us mobilize these targeted voters. So we launched our postcarding program at the Environmental Voter Project in 2022, and we only use rigorously tested messages, designs, and voter targeting. So our postcarding program is a little bit different than that of other organizations that you might have also worked with. So that's why it's important that you stay tuned for this full training to make sure you understand the specifics of our campaign before you decide to commit to sending postcards. So this is an example of some of the research that we are basing our postcards off of. And I'm sharing that with you because it's important for you to understand that we're not just making guesses or assuming what might work. We are basing our postcard design, message, and timing off of our own and many other organizations, like possibly like yours, effective, proven, randomized controlled trial messages, or experiments in the past. So a couple examples that we'll be highlighting here. So there's a number of reports that show that nonpartisan, social pressure-based messages increase turnout more than other types of messages, specifically with postcards. So when I say a social pressure-based message, you can think of that a little bit like peer pressure, but not individual to individual, a little bit more broader. So basically making people feel like they don't want to be the only one not doing something that everybody else is doing. Second, and this is great news for your writing hands, short 1 to 2 sentence messages are proven to be more effective with postcards than longer messages, those that are 3 or more sentences. So we are going to ask you to write 2 sentences on your EVP postcards, or 2 short sentences. Please do not add anything additional there because it will reduce the effectiveness of that postcard. And then 2 of our own experiments that we'll be basing these specific postcards off of our midterm Colorado State primary campaign, where we saw a 1.3% increase in turnout of our target voters versus our control. So that was a slightly different message versus what we're using for the presidential, just a different year, different context. But the timing, the training, and the process are all things that we are basing this campaign off of that we saw show success in Colorado. And then the last is a relatively recent experiment that we published called the Trending Norms Message. So we did a fully printed postcard for that one to test the message before we asked volunteers to write it. And that campaign also had a 1.3% increase in turnout of our treatment group versus our control group. So you can see details on those last 2 reports by going to the Environmental Voter Project website. So this is environmentalvoter.org/results/reports, where you can just go to that results page and scroll down, and you will see both the Colorado postcard experiment and the Trending Norms experiment to get way more details on exactly how many voters we're talking about here. 1.3 percentage points might feel trivial or small, but when we are talking about elections, especially big election years, 1.3% is what people win and lose races by, or in many cases, smaller margins than that. So when we're talking about an entire state or a large intervention, we're then looking at thousands of voters who will be voting who wouldn't otherwise have voted if they hadn't heard from us. So I really encourage you to check out those reports for more details. So now we're going to walk into the specifics of this particular Arizona 2024 state primary campaign. So we're breaking this up into physical materials and electronic materials. It is important to note that you should contact your organization's postcard leader for all the specifics for your campaign. But this is an overview of the process and how the Environmental Voter Project runs our campaigns and how we are recommending that our partner organizations that you're working with manage this campaign with your participation. So for the postcards themselves, those are designed in-house at the Environmental Voter Project, and we are mailing them in bulk to your organization's postcard leader. Your organization's postcard leader will then be in charge of distributing those postcards to you. So they will have a process that they'll be in touch with you about as to how to request a certain number of postcards and how they should get those postcards from you. Next, we have postcard stamps. So the stamps are also something that you need to check with your organization's leader about as to whether you should provide them yourself, whether they'll ask you to pay for them. But each postcard will need one postcard stamp affixed in order for you to mail it. So right now, these postcard stamps are 53 cents each from USPS, and you'll need one per postcard. Stamp prices increase in the middle of July, but for now and for this campaign, we'll be looking at 53 cents per stamp. You are welcome to use stamps at a higher designation, like any standard stamp or postage that equals at least 53 cents. But the easiest thing is typically to buy a roll of postcard stamps, either from your USPS branch or online. And postcard stamps, the great thing about them is that they're considered forever stamps. So if you buy postcard designation stamps now, or you get them from your volunteer leader, you can hold on to them and they will still be valid even after postage prices increase. The last thing is that you'll want to make sure that you have some good pens or markers that are in readable, bold colors for you to be able to use for the campaign. So these postcards are on non-glossy matte cardstock. It is possible that your permanent marker could bleed through, so I recommend testing it out first on one or two. You can use erasable pens as long as they become permanent. So there are erasable pens out there that become fully permanent and non-erasable after 24 hours. It's important to make sure that you do that because sometimes the friction of the mailing process could accidentally erase what you've written otherwise. But you're welcome to use different colors as long as it's readable. And you will have some number of spare postcards in case of mistakes, but I also recommend having some whiteout just because we don't want to waste postcards. We want to really try to make sure almost every single one gets to a voter. Next will be these additional materials that we will be providing to your postcard leaders electronically. So they may choose to print some of these out and provide them to you, but we will be providing them to your postcard leader electronically, and you should expect to receive them electronically as well. So first, this is so important. We are going to provide you the exact message to write on the postcards, and this is the message that we'll be asking you to write. Voter first name. Each year, more Arizonans vote. Don't be left behind on July 30. That's it. That's all we're asking you to write. And this is going to go in tandem with a design on the front of the postcard and some additional pre-printed language.
In half an hour
But then you'll sign your postcard, your first name. If you'd rather use like a pen name or something, that's fine. And then Environmental Voter Project Volunteer. It is very important that you say Environmental Voter Project Volunteer here for a few reasons. One, EVP is the organization that is pulling these voter lists and has access to this voter file data. So even though you're working with us through another organization, we have to identify that these postcards are coming from the Environmental Voter Project. This is our campaign. That is a legal requirement. The other piece is we can't say EVP because these target voters are not volunteers with us. They're not expected to know what EVP means. It's important to say volunteer because there is data that suggests that saying that you're a volunteer does increase the effectiveness of a postcard when it is handwritten. So that's important there. And then the last piece is we'll ask you not to include your, organization's name in addition to EVP for space reasons. And just because I know some organizations do other work, but this postcard campaign is designed by EVP, so it has to just have our name on it. The second piece here is the voter list. So we're going to provide your organization leader a list of these target already registered to vote, highly likely to care about climate, but unlikely to vote in November in the presidential election, list of voters in Arizona. So this is important. This is public data, these folks' name and addresses, but please treat it respectfully. So we ask that you only use these voter lists for the EVP postcards and then you destroy them. So if you've printed them, make sure you shred them. If you've downloaded it electronically, make sure you delete it from your computer after the campaign. You cannot use these voter lists for anything other than these EVP postcards. It will get into big trouble if these are used otherwise. So please be respectful with that. And Please make sure that you get that voter list from your postcard leader. Don't just send these to your family and friends. If you would like to create your own postcards to send to family and friends using this message, that is great. You are totally welcome to do that. But for this particular campaign, you need to use these postcards that we've printed to send to these specific voters. And then the last thing here is that we're going to provide a way for you to confirm that you've completed your postcards. So you are responsible for communicating with your organization's leader as to whether you have completed your assigned postcards or not, and whether you've mailed them on time. Then EVP is going to communicate with your organization's leader to make sure that we know which of your batch of voters got a postcard and which perhaps didn't. So for example, if you sign up to do 100 postcards and you are only able to do 97 of them, you need to report to your organization's leader which 3 voters from your list did not get a postcard, and then they'll have to report that to us. We want to make sure that we're not ruining the integrity of our campaigns by analyzing results from people that didn't actually get the intervention. And then we'll include timelines in there as well. So the date for this campaign by which you need to have that postcard in the mail is Monday, July 8th. So if you are not around on Monday, July 8th, and you're not able to get those postcards in the mail, please do not commit to participating in this campaign, unfortunately. It is very important that all postcards be completed, stamped, and put in the mail on Monday, July 8th, not earlier than that and not later than that. This is timed so that these postcards will arrive to voters right after the start of in-person early voting and right after ballots are mailed out to voters who are on the permanent absentee ballot list in Arizona. So that date is picked really deliberately, and by committing to this campaign, you are agreeing to make sure your postcards get mailed on that day. So you can communicate with your organization's leader if you have a problem with that date, and then they can figure out an alternative, like perhaps somebody else will mail yours for you or anything like that. So this is what these postcards are going to look like for this particular campaign that you'll be working with us on. So at the front is this graphic, and it says Arizonans are voting in record numbers. Don't be left behind. This is pretty much an exact message that we tested, but for an Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska campaign last year. Then we include the election name and date on the front. This is what we're calling a trending norms message. We're trying to indicate to these folks, everyone's doing it. Voting is the trendy thing to do. Make sure you're not the last one not doing it. And we did see a statistically significant impact from this design. And these are real numbers from the last presidential years. And then this is the back. So this green text, this is what will be handwritten by you. Everything else is pre-printed on the postcard, except this is the location where you'll put the stamp. So you'll see here, we have a whole bunch of things, and I'm going to walk you through what those mean in a moment. But as you can see, you've got plenty of room to write these 2 sentences and to address the voter. All right, now I'm going to walk you through step by step why each thing is here. So I know there's a lot here. You can pause the video. But the first thing is what I mentioned, that short, nonpartisan trending norms message. What we're really trying to do is instill a fear of missing out, FOMO, as we call it, in that voter. So we want them to feel like everybody else is doing it. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be the one left out who's not voting. So we do that with that graphic that shows this upward trend, with the message on the front in just simple bold letters. And then we are repeating that message on purpose on the back. So it's not exactly word for word, but you'll see each year more Arizonans vote. Don't be left behind on July 30. So we're reiterating the election day and this idea that we don't want this person to be left out. Next, we'll see, as I mentioned before, your sign off is going to include Environmental Voter Project volunteer. You're going to handwrite that. I know it's a little bit of writing, but this is part of what you're committing to in addition to these 2 short sentences. So we are doing that because this is how we make an impact, and this is how we appropriately identify who these postcards are coming from. On that note, oops, these are coming a little out of order. We have EVP's return address in the upper left corner. So this is important because we are going to track if certain postcards get returned to sender. So we can mark these as bad addresses if we get them returned. You'll see that the text is much smaller and in gray text because we've tested these with the USPS system in the past. And if it's any larger or lower down or darker, we had some issues with the postal machine scanning the return address as if it was the address of the voter. So this is our key way of making sure that there is a return address if needed, but that the postcards actually are going to the right person the vast majority of the time. Over here in the upper left corner with this dark green note is additional social pressure messaging that is proven to be effective. So just as I mentioned to y'all near the top, who you vote for is secret, but whether you vote is public record. We're repeating that and we're putting it in these bright colors to folks because this social pressure message, exactly with these words, time and time again is proven to be effective at helping folks vote. So we're just layering on another message here. This black arrow is pointing to some pre-printed voting information that we're going to have on that postcard. That way you don't have to handwrite all of this, but that if a voter was completely unaware of this election, they would have all the basic information that they need right in front of them on this postcard. They don't have to look anything up to get that basic information. So as you'll note, with that July 8th date, it's right around after the start of early voting, since the July 4th holiday will be right after the actual start of early voting. We're going to have these postcards go right after the holiday. And we include the voting options that are available to all voters as well as a website that is an easy place for them to go and get more information if they need it. The final thing that I'll note here is you'll see you say July 30 in your message, but on the front, we've printed the full election name and date as well, just in case voters are confused about like what the actual election is or what might be on the ballot. So I'm going to run through again things we've already talked about, but the commitments that you'd be making if you choose to participate in this campaign with us. So as I've noted a number of times, we are choosing the specific messages on our postcards because they are proven to be effective and because we want your time, energy, and money to be spent only in ways that we know are going to make a difference. Even if we feel like writing a different message might be better, or if you feel a little bit uncomfortable with the specific message, I understand that. But by choosing to participate in this campaign, you are committing to using the message that we've asked you to use and not adding any additional text here. So sticking to this message is a must for effective results and to ensure that we can continue having these types of campaigns in the future. Similarly, for consistency purposes, we are getting these postcards printed at a union print shop. They're designed in-house by the Environmental Voter Project. Please do not use alternative postcards. I know you can purchase like generic voter postcards. Feel free to use those to send to your loved ones, but for this campaign, for this list of voters, you are only permitted to use the postcards provided by EVP through your volunteer or whoever's leading your effort. So make sure that you're in touch with your organization's postcard leader as to how to get these postcards through EVP. So there's 5 main things that I'm going to summarize for you that you're committing to by participating in this campaign. You are committing to our nonpartisan mission at EVP and for these postcards. It is totally fine and great if you choose to also do partisan volunteering in your time. That's great. When you're choosing to work on this particular campaign, all of your work, all of your writing, and even like anything you're sharing on social media in relation to this campaign must remain nonpartisan. That is a legal requirement for EVP, and we want to make sure we get to continue to exist. So please make sure that you are able to commit to that before you participate. 2, please commit to the timeline. So let's say you get your postcards and you finish them in 2 weeks and they're ready in mid-June. Do not send your postcards early. If you send them early, they arrive before the voter has the opportunity to act, and we have seen that that timing is less effective or in some cases not effective at all. So we're timing these postcards strategically so that they can arrive on time. Make sure when you're committing to sign up that you can actually get these postcards completed and mailed on time, not too early and not too late. commit to the language that we're using. So just as I noted, this message is really specific and data driven, even though it feels a little bit simple. Make sure that you are able and comfortable with writing that message on each of your postcards. Commit to communication. So we know we're all human beings, and we're going to work with the leaders at your organization to get you postcards and to set you up for success. If something happens and you're not able to complete your postcards, that's okay. Like, we're humans. Just make sure you talk to your group leader, and they either might be able to reassign your postcards to another volunteer if there's enough time, or they'll just be able to communicate with EVP as to which voters won't get a postcard. And that's okay. What's most important is that we are able to mark and track who received one and who didn't receive one, so we can continue to analyze and have really good data to share with you. And then last, as I noted on that second point, make sure you commit to completion. So by signing up to participate in this campaign, you are signing up for like the time and energy and effort, and in many cases, like your organization's investments in this process. So please do take that seriously and have the best intention of completing your postcards. Here's an overview of the timeline for what we're working with here. So in late May into early June is likely when you're watching this training. Hello, everybody. Get trained and commit to participating. Work with your organization's leader to get your postcards. That shouldn't say May 21st. May 21st is when I'm recording this training. But after May 21st is when your group is going to get in touch with you about mailing you your postcards. Then from whenever you receive your postcards all the way through June is when you will have to write and complete them. July 8th, so you'll have that first week in July as well. By July 8th, on that date, your postcard should be completed. And on that Monday, you can drop your postcards off at USPS to get them delivered to the voter. So you can drop them off in a blue USPS box at a postal branch. If there is pickup available in your area, your postal carrier could possibly pick your postcards up, or and your organization might have you send all your postcards to somebody else first so that that person can mail them on July 8th. So communicate with your group leader as to the specifics of what June into the first week of July looks like for you. And then lastly, this election is taking place on July 30th. So interestingly, this Arizona primary was initially scheduled for August, but the date has been moved back. So part of these postcards are possibly going to be educating voters who might still think this election is in August. So between July 8th and July 30th is when these postcards have to arrive for the voter to receive them and to be able to act on the message that we're sending. So thank you all for taking the time to watch this training. I hope it was informative, and I hope you feel prepared to write your postcards to Arizona low propensity environmental voters. So your next steps are to contact your organization's postcard leader to sign up to participate and to ask any other questions that you might have. So we'll be sharing a whole bunch of resources with them, which they will then work with you to get these postcards completed. So whoever shared this video with you is probably your best person to reach out to with any questions and to sign up. But if not, I recommend you take a look at wherever you got this video from, and that person will be able to point you in the right direction. So on behalf of the Environmental Voter Project, thank you all so much for signing up or for your interest in participating in this campaign with us. We are so excited to contact a whole lot of Arizona voters ahead of this primary election and then again in November. Have a great day.
Whoops. It wouldn't be Zoom without some kind of blooper. Okay, thank you so much for listening. If you are joining us, I'm Pam Burgun. I'll say a little bit more about myself in a moment. We got a question about North Carolina. I don't have that information handy, but Environmental Voter Project website should have more information about it. I want to share one slide with you before we go on and get some questions answered and everything else. We are doing phone banking, as you may know, every Friday at 11 Eastern, 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific. and we'd really be happy to have you join us for that as well. My tradition for that has been whenever I'm leading to try to make sure that we have a VIP you can meet. We didn't do that for postcarding, but I thought I would at least share these pictures. So some of you who got, whoops, are we doing this again? Okay, let's do that once more. Okay, that should be better. Anyway, some of you heard I am the plaintiff of, and the mom of two of the plaintiffs in the federal youth climate lawsuit, Nico and Isaac. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here today, more than I can say. And my kids would say the same thing. The picture at the upper left is taken the day that we filed the federal youth climate lawsuit to try to get action on the climate crisis in a way similar to the way we had the Brown versus Board of Education case to get desegregation. The picture on the right is my kids this last month, and below are some with friends. We have fought through the courts like crazy for almost 9 years, and the courts have gotten more conservative, and we have great strategy and are very hopeful. That said, the best way to be able to win that is to get people who care about the climate to start voting. So I really want to thank you so much for being here today. For some of the information that people are asking is going to be in the information I'm going to share. But just to give you kind of a heads up, the Environmental Voter Project was founded in Massachusetts. So the caller ID will show a Massachusetts number. It won't show your information. Okay. So in a moment, I'm going to share the commitment form with you. It's a short form, but it's important to read it carefully so that you know postcarding with us is something that you feel able to do. Shannon's video went over everything really well, and it will also be available to you if you want to look at it anymore. So I wanted to say, any of the folks who joined us late, before you sign the postcarding form, what you will likely want to do is go back into the folder I'm going to share with you and pick up where you started and see the part of the video that you missed so that you've got the full information. Let's see. Find one of their forms. Give me just a second. If anybody has any questions, in the meantime, this is good while I'm pulling up. Please feel free to ask while I'm pulling up the packet of information for you. Just come on. I'm going to be looking for something on my computer, so just come off mute if you have questions.
Where do we get our leaders' information?
That would be me. So it's Pam at eldersclimateaction.org, and you've gotten a few emails from me if you made it here today. So you'll be able to just respond to that email. Yeah, good question. Environmental Voter Project is doing this with several organizations, and we have a long-standing partnership with them. And so Elders Climate Action is leading this part of their wider effort.
So will all the
Almost
postcards go to you, Pam, and then you will mail them out to us? Okay.
Exactly. So they'll all come to me. I'll ship them out to anybody who signed their commitment form in the first 50. So we're doing 5,000 postcards. And then the first 50 people who do the commitment form, some people have already done it because they did a previous training with Environmental Voter Project. And folks who go ahead and sign up will get those postcards sent by me.
And Pam,
Okay,
did you
great.
say it was Pam at eldersclimateaction.com?
.org.
.org. Okay, that makes more sense.
Thanks for clarifying that.
And are we committing to a particular number minimum?
You are. Yeah, you are. So it's to 100. And that will often be you doing it by yourself. But essentially, it's you committing to making sure that they're done right. So if you have to friends, to grandkids that you want to do it with, you can be the one who basically does the training for them, make sure they understand exactly, don't write extra stuff and all that. Then you'll make sure everything's right before you send it off. So most people are going to probably do it themselves. We are also, if there ends up being enough spots and you have friends or family who you would like to do it with, you're super welcome to have them sign up as you're essentially email me, and then we can arrange like a postcarding party kind of a thing. So you'll get say 4 batches, and then you'll be responsible for making sure that those 4 batches get back in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay. Pam, I know I'm not going to be here on July 8th. Is there a way I can just send the filled up postcards back to you, or will somebody else in Arizona to mail them?
Yeah, a good question. The best option for that is to go ahead and email me, and then we'll work out a plan, because everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. But that way it should be doable. But just go ahead and email me. So I've got that in front and center, and then we can figure out a plan together. Does that sound good?
Yep.
When we
Okay,
receive our
great.
packet of postcards, will we get a repeat of Shannon's info at the how-tos?
I am just about, and thank you for your patience while I hunt my computer. I'm going to share a folder with you all right now, and you can click on the link and save it however you like. What that has is the video that Shannon has. So for example, let's say you joined us 20 minutes in. You can go back and watch, we talked for maybe 10, so you'll watch the first 10 minutes of the video till you start to realize that you've seen it before. It'll have a transcript, it'll have the slides. So if you want to look at anything in more detail without having to pause, you can just look at the slides. It will have other information that you need. Let me think what else. And then, let's see, let me go ahead
And I'm assuming that we'll have to buy stamps also, correct?
actually, no, that's my next thing. Let me see if anybody has any other questions, and I'll come back about the stamps. It would be wonderful if you did, but it's not required. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a second.
Just wanting to make sure the specific instructions that were in the video will be in our bunch of postcards as well. The wording and all that.
Yeah. So you'll get materials electronically from me. And like I said, you just got a bunch in that link. There's 5 documents in that. And you'll literally be able to look at the screens that you saw in the video and study it. So I think that'll be helpful. And then I'm available if you have any questions. So
Pam, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I had
Yeah.
a text
No, no,
message I had to get to. When do we see the sign up form?
in about a minute to 2 minutes. So we're really close.
Okay, yeah, I'm got to go in about
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay, you'll have it, and you probably can get it done before you go. Same for everybody else. Okay, so when you do read it, just read the commitment form carefully, because it is really important that you are making sure that you know what you're committing to. So the 100 postcards, that's a roll of postcard stamps, so that comes out to $53. You can pick it up, the 100 stamps, you can have it shipped to you. If you're able to donate toward this work by buying the stamps yourself to use, that's extremely helpful. We've been given a very generous grant, but it's a very limited grant to do this work. So your buying the stamps does help us to be able to do this work, and for example, possibly a second wave of postcarding later in the summer. We absolutely want you to do it if you'd like to join us for postcarding. So if you're like me and $53, I'm not sure that's a good idea for me right now, it's totally fine to go ahead and have us pay for it. But if you can donate that cost by buying the stamps, just buy the stamps for yourself, that's wonderful. Any questions about that?
That we should buy the stamps and we could get reimbursed?
No, so there'll be 2 main ways to do it, and you'll see this on the commitment form.
Okay.
One is you will buy the stamps yourself, and that's essentially your gift. And the way that I would put it is some of us, like me, have spent a lot of money on campaign merch over the years to try to get certain people elected. Then you have to figure out where to put it. It gathers dust, etc., or it gets too small or too big. The postcard stamps are a way of helping you see these people vote and it won't have those sort of downsides. Yeah, Arizona, I'm just going to say this really briefly because we need to get people off, but Arizona is one of the real key swing states, as it was in the last few elections. And it is a place with a lot of environmentalists who don't vote. Okay, let me go ahead and share that commitment form with you. And then feel free to do it later. Feel free to do it now. We're going to be looking for the most part for the first wave of folks who fill it out. So delaying's not necessarily recommended, but I will stay on. So if you have any questions as you look at it, I'll be here. I just want to thank you again so much for coming. I know a lot of you need to go. I think we had scheduled this for 2 hours and we're going to get done in 1, which is pretty cool. But I will be available. So if you click on that link, you'll see there's a few things to read, basic contact information. Just make sure you're putting in the street address and everything right, because that's where those will go. And then a few questions confirming that you understood what we talked about and whether you can help by paying for the stamps. And I'll be quiet, but if you have questions, jump in.
Pam, you said if
This
we
is for
have
the primary.
friends.
Oh,
Oops.
sorry.
Go ahead. This is for the primary. Will there be more in the fall for the general election?
At the moment, we're only for sure doing one postcarding round. So this is the option that you will for sure have. We might have other ones later, but if you want to do this, I'd jump in now.
When will you mail the postcards to us?
Can you show that?
Yeah, I'm planning to mail those out within about a week to 10 days. So you'll have about 3 weeks to complete them. They do need to be mailed on the 8th. Like I said, if you feel like you want to do it, go ahead and fill out the commitment form, but I forget if let's see if there's a place to put a note. If not, just email me and say, I committed, but this is my situation. I can't email it that day.
Pam,
and
I'm-
it
says
says
July 6th.
Yeah.
Not
I
the
was just
8th.
going to say that. Yeah. Originally, the date was July 6th. They moved it to the 8th. So for now, we'll say the 8th because that's the latest information from Shannon. But like if the 6th works better for you, that's the kind of thing you can email me about. And I'll put my email in the chat as well again, so you have it handy.
Can you show the link again?
Yeah, you bet. For the commitment form?
Yes.
Okay,
please.
great. Yeah, you bet.
Pam, you said if we had friends that we thought we could do more of these, is Elder Climate, do they only have 5,000 totals? So that's really, or would you request more from, like, if you get enough people to do the 5,000?
You know, at the moment, we're trying to keep this round simple, but if we get more people, that dramatically increases the chance that we will do the second round. I am not opposed to doing more people this round, but I want to defer to the director because this is a new project for us. And so nobody at our organization has ever done this round of postcarding before. So we want to make sure that it's as smooth as possible. Oh, whoops, sorry. It should be separate. You should be able to click on the commitment form and my email separately. Yeah, looks like it just looks like it's one link, but it's not.
Can I go back to the primary question? If you really only plan to do one, why wouldn't you do this effort for the main election rather than the primary? What's the significance of a primary per se here?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Because I wasn't part of the decision making, I don't want to weigh in on that and give you my best guess. But I will give you kind of the thing that's really key to know about Environmental Voter Project that we usually cover in the training for the Friday phone banks. If you want someone to vote and vote regularly and have their voice be heard, they need to vote in every election. So if they vote in the primary, they are much more likely to vote in the general election.
Okay.
And if they vote in those two, they're more likely to vote when there is a local judge up, which maybe nobody cares about, but in fact is an important judge. And so they'll vote in that one too. So that would be my kind of key message to kind of focus on. And why are we not getting this? Is the commitment link not working for folks?
I'm not getting it.
No, I got it. I just signed up.
I got it too.
I signed up. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. If you are not getting it, I can try send it to you. Tell me your name and I can try send it to independent.
Sharon, it's in the
Look in
chat.
the chat.
Oh, yay. Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
good. Good. Yeah, I did send, so you may get another email from me that says not too late to jump in. Good. Thank you so much, Karen. Take care. I sent out an email while we were listening to the video for folks because we had another 30 or so signed up. The good news for everybody who's here is if you go ahead and commit and you're able to do stamps and all those good things and get this done soon, you'll probably be in the first 50. Going back to the question about friends and family, there's two ways you can do this. One, possibly a little bit easier for me is to, but either's totally fine. You can have them, give them the information that got you here and have them register to do have them join have them join Elders Promote the Vote and indicate they want to do postcarding, and then give them my email and have them email me and we'll get them added to this project. Thanks, Michelle. And by the way, thank you for bringing a friend. If I didn't, we've got at least one person who had a friend come. We can get them trained if we've still got spots or even for later in the summer. The other option is to email me and say you want to do, like, say you and 3 friends, and then I'll send you a batch of 400, and then you'll be responsible for everyone getting the information they need and getting those turned in. You can still, if they do it separately, you can still do a postcarding party where you get together, but everybody would get their own packet of 100. Yay. So yeah, I'm here for any questions.
Were you able to receive our agreement forms, Pam?
Oh, I didn't try to check that. Good question. I've used these kind of systems a lot, but not this one a ton. And so I'm a little clunky to go into it. So this might or might not happen while we're on the call, but I think I've got it.
If people check their email, you will have already gotten an email, remarkably, as I did. So take a look, yeah, and very quick response.
Great, thank you.
Confirming.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I got a little worried this morning when I did a test and the Zoom link took like 10 minutes to come through, and I thought, oh no, but everybody should have been able to get that okay.
Well, thanks very much, Pam, and everyone.
You're very welcome, and I really want to plug the Friday phone banks too. The postcarding is really the key for today, but we are doing it tomorrow. I won't be leading tomorrow, but I'll be leading again next week and doing my best to line up a really cool person to talk to, like some of the folks that you might have seen in that video, some of the plaintiffs or plaintiff parents. We've gotten phone banker folks who are themselves distinguished and who are going to be doing a VIP spot, but it's just like a couple minutes to kind of kick it off. And in the words of one of our regular phone bankers, she said, it's been really nice, like the 3 minutes or so to hear from somebody who's working on the climate about what they do. And it's been kind of like a little bit of meditation before going onto the phones, and we'll provide all the training you need. So no worries about that.
Good. So just another, follow up. I got a note from them. I donated after the fact to ECA and I got that notice, but I didn't get a notice that I sent the form in okay, because I did send it in. This is Terry.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for the donating, and for sure. Would you just type in, if you haven't already, that you didn't get the commitment form, then I can just, that you did fill it out, and that way I can make sure that it came through okay.
Yep.
Was on my way to checking and then got busy and didn't do it. One thing we've seen too is that this database where I can check these things is very slow, and it takes a while to load, and with Zoom running, it's unlikely to want to play ball at all. So it's been trying to load for like 5 minutes. So.
I just want to make sure I think I did hit that because then it brought me to the next screen to donate. So
Ooh.
hopefully.
I'm in, and there you are, Terry.
Oh,
And we have
okay,
a
great.
really nice list of folks. So looks like we've
Okay.
got 22, if I'm seeing right, already. So
Did you
yeah,
get-
it's pretty cool.
This
So
is
still
Bonnie.
plenty of time to ask friends. Oh yeah, go ahead.
This is Bonnie. Did you get me? I can't tell.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, fine. I have to go then. Thanks a lot.
Okay. You said Bonnie, right?
Yep,
What's your last name?
Temple.
I don't see it here, but it might be as simple as it's not refreshed yet. I'll just make a note in the chat for you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Sure.
Thank you. I can just see you got me. Looking forward to it.
Great.
Thank
And
you,
I probably
Pam.
just
Thank
spelled
you.
wrong. But you're welcome. I hurt my hand, so my typing is not the best at the moment.
I also haven't gotten a receipt or a confirmation. I sent a chat to you. It's
Oh,
Campbell
great.
Sue Ellen.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
Sue
Pam.
Ellen. Yeah, you're very welcome. Sue Ellen, we have you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
My guess is we'll get Bonnie once I rerun this. Let's see if we can get it to do that again. But if not, I'll follow up with you, Bonnie. If you're still on. It looks like I've got Cheryl's and Deb's, and I'm just checking the others. And Sue Ellen. If anybody who's still on needs any more help, let me know. Now that'd be great. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and close the Zoom. It looks like everyone's showing up on the commitment form except Joan, and that may just be a function of it not loading yet. So if you do the commitment form, you can always email me and make sure. Give it maybe another like 2 minutes and then I'll go ahead and close Zoom. it looks like we're all set. So Deborah, Sue Ellen, if you need me, I'm here, but I'm going to go ahead and close in about a minute. Okay. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. So glad to be here.